Okay, so what are the common hosting footprints? Basically, you want to avoid these, right? Because these are really, really important. So you need to avoid using the same registrar. So if your entire PBN network, all the domains are registered by GoDaddy, then that's a footprint. Because so you need to mix and match. So don't use one at all. I mean, but don't use. I would say use about 3 or 4 different registrars, and just increase that number as the number of PBN as your PBN network site the size grows. Registering all your domains on the same date, that itself is a big footprint. I made that mistake once and I suffered from it because I was scared. Then I wouldn't, because that's a big footprint. If you have if you find say you find 20, 25, 30 high quality expired domains and you go and buy them all on the same date, then that's going to leave a footprint, right? Because they're all going to be linking to the same money site, but they all were purchased on the same date. That's a big, I learned from that one. So to don't do that. That's another common footprint, severe footprint, I would say. Then using common email across all the domains. Like if you have the registered account, the whois information has the whois information or the email address are common for all your domains. That's a massive footprint. So don't do that. Just use private whois. You should be safe, or just use fakenamegenerator.com to generate some fake information and use that. And also while setting up the email address, you need to make sure, and this I'll show you this to you in the walkthroughs, you need to make sure that you don't insert an email address that doesn't exist at the time you register it, because and does not belong to that same domain. Because if you do, you get the verification email right away, right? And if your email is a domain specific email, which is the domain you're purchasing, then that email is going to bounce and you're not going to be able to verify the ownership of that email address, which is absolutely critical. And then you lose that domain. So don't do that. So you need to set up different email addresses for each of the domains that you register, and that's one thing important. You need to do that, and they need to be all unique. And then you can of course go in there and swap it and use a domain specific email later on after the verification, but that's important. And try not to use common custom name servers on all the expired domain sites, or using, there's a method to set up each of the domains as its own custom name server. So I'll talk about that in the walkthrough when I set things up and show you guys. But just remember that, just don't use custom name servers for all of it. You could use like other name servers. Don't use common name servers on multiple sites in the PBN. That's pretty obvious. Don't use the same sort of name server. So with the shared hosting account, the hosting companies will give you they'll give you the name server to use, and so you should just use that. But you could use your own domain specific name server also, but I would avoid that initially, because it is a lot more work, and I would definitely try and avoid that, because it doesn't really suit any purpose. It doesn't help. Then the SOA records, which is related, it shows the email address. It shows that there's a common email address for all the sites that are hosted on that IP address, on that in that control panel, in the WHM panel. That is not really a very severe feature at the moment, unless you're not using shared hosting, but it can expose your shared hosting account in some manner if you have multiple sites all with the same email address. So you can go in there and you can actually tweak this SOA. Some hosts allow you to do that, some of the shared hosting, and I'll have a separate session where I show you how to do this. So I would say just try and vary that also, and I'll show you how to do that. And then there's excessive cloud, CDN hosting, the content delivery network providers like Cloudflare. So if you want to proxy it, and so don't go and have the same CDN like this across like your entire PBN. Like if you have an account with Cloudflare and they give you a couple of name servers to use so that their CDN can kick in, don't go and use that across all your PBN sites, because it's asking for trouble. In fact, I would say try and stay away from CDNs. Maybe use it 5% of the time, 10% of the times on your PBN network, but don't use it excessively, because that itself is a huge footprint. So with that, I'm done with the hosting footprints, and I will see you in the next video.